When you look out to the horizon, what do you see? What does tomorrow look like? If you run a family-owned business, you see the future differently. As part of the fourth generation of my family to help lead First Bank, I know we see the future like you. At the First Bank Center for Family-Owned Businesses, your vision is ours. Now, let our experience be yours. In this seminar, let us help you see what your future can be.
All right, and at this time, I'd like to turn it over to the host of our program, Mr. Joe Ambrose.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We have got a great presentation this morning. Marc Ashworth from our security team is going to present on cybercrime, and we're stepping away from our usual family business offerings with this presentation. So without further ado, Marc.
Hi, my name is Marc Ashworth. I'm the CISO for our First Bank. It's my privilege today to introduce Brian Cockrill. He is with the U.S. Secret Service and the Gateway Cybercrimes Task Force, and he's going to be joining me today on kind of a fireside chat discussion on various topics around cyber. And so, Brian, I was glad to have you here today.
Thanks, Marc. I really appreciate it, and thanks for asking me to participate in the event this morning. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you can make it, and and I know you're in a secret location, right? Someplace, being part of the Secret Service. So.
Right. Yep. It's a hollowed out bunker in the side of a remote mountaintop. Exactly.
Well, I know as well as a lot of other people that Bitcoin is in the news quite a bit, and especially as its totality of the pricing going up and down and thefts with crypto exchanges and everything. What type of fraud are you seeing concerning Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency?
Well, yes, it is certainly everywhere. So, the Secret Service was founded in 1865 to investigate and to infiltrate groups that were producing counterfeit currency. And now, 160 years later, that counterfeit currency has now transitioned to cryptocurrency, and that's what we spend. That's the currency we spend our time hunting down now, much more often than counterfeit currency. So it's definitely been a change, and definitely something that doesn't appear to be going away. From the criminal network perspective, drug cartels were the first to begin using crypto. Maybe 10 years or so ago, they were kind of on the forefront. But at this point now, it's across the board in terms of criminal groups and their association with utilizing cryptocurrency. The majority of the fraud scams today that we see end up with funds ultimately being converted to cryptocurrency, so that it becomes much more difficult to trace. Obviously, the anonymity factor is there, but that's oftentimes what ultimately occurs with funds that have been fraudulently obtained. Most of the fraud schemes that we investigate involve money mules, and typically at some point they are instructed by their handlers or another party further up the chain to convert the funds that they receive into crypto and then to forward it on to wallets that are held by the criminals. So any type of scheme where a victim is somehow, and there are any number of ways it plays out, but any scheme where a victim is somehow convinced or tricked into wiring funds, typically that goes to some sort of middleman, a money mule at some point, and then those funds are converted to crypto and then forwarded on. And then oftentimes that money mule may not even be knowingly participating in this type of criminal activity. They may think that they have some sort of work from home type job that they're under the impression is a legitimate make money work from home type position when they're really just acting as a middleman. One of the big schemes that have a nexus to crypto that we see right now that maybe or some of your clients have heard about is SIM swapping. So this is a type of identity theft involving a cyber criminal temporarily stealing your mobile phone number and assigning it to a new SIM card. So the criminals they'll bribe or socially engineer a mobile phone, a wireless phone store employee, and convince them to transfer a victim's phone number to a new SIM card, which is then used in a mobile phone that the criminal controls. And they're doing this to gain access to your online accounts by way of intercepting those text messages that are used for two-factor authentication and password changes. So I'm sure you've experienced it where you've forgotten a password or trying to change a password, and whatever app or account that you're changing your password on wants to send a confirmation code to your mobile phone number in order as a means of a two-factor authentication. Well, with the criminals taking over a SIM card and essentially or taking over your phone number and porting it to a different SIM card, they're intercepting those messages. They're able to then change your passwords and get into all of your accounts and gain access to those accounts. And specifically, they are targeting Coinbase, Binance, other crypto, where people hold their crypto accounts, so that they can ultimately transfer crypto funds out of the victim's account. They'll even oftentimes move money from your associated bank account that's tied to your crypto account, and then wire money in, and then transfer it out again to wallets that they hold. So that's one that we've seen increasingly recently, specific to crypto.
Great. So speaking of Coinbase, a lot of investors are putting money into there, like you mentioned, and it's being stolen. So how with the SIM swapping, but how can you protect yourself as an investor? To keep that from happening to you when our Coinbase is really such a big target and other crypto exchanges like that.
Yeah, there's a handful of different ways. Unfortunately, none of which are foolproof or perfect, I guess I should say, but a number of different ways to protect yourself. You can, in terms of that multi-factor authentication, which is a great thing and a great way to protect yourself. It's best to really use an authenticator app rather than the text-based password reset functions that accounts or that your different accounts might offer in order to circumvent the criminal taking over your having access to your text messages. Always use long randomized passwords, change them frequently. Use a different password for each account, things that you hear over and over again and sound extremely simple, but, we don't do them because it's inconvenient and that therefore we are susceptible to being victimized. Never reply to calls, emails, text messages that ask for personal information. If you receive this type of a request, contact the requesting company by means of their official phone number, or go to their website, call a phone number. Don't rely on the information that comes to you via that email or text message. Independently seek it out and contact them if you think it's something that may be fraudulent, just to verify that, to protect yourself. Specific again to that SIM swapping scam that we're seeing a lot of recently, always set up a PIN or a password with your cellular provider to access your account, so that again you can protect yourself from that type of activity. Again, a lot of these things really aren't terribly difficult, and they're all kind of easily understood. They're things that are things you hear over and over again in terms of ways to protect yourself. But the fact that we as victims aren't doing it means that it still needs to be emphasized, certainly.
Yeah, definitely from a one-time token type or authenticator, something like Google Authenticator or something like that. Anytime that is an option, that's definitely a better option than utilizing text messages or other forms that's like that. And the other important thing too is back up your settings off of that, so that way if you lose your phone, you're able to recover that too, right? So backups are always good.
Right. And I'll also mention real quick again, just because we're seeing it a lot with that SIM swapping activity. The first thing that you most likely will notice as a victim is that your phone is dead. You'll turn your phone on, or you'll wake up and your phone won't be connected to the network. And that is usually that's the ultimate flag that this may have occurred, because as soon as your number is ported to that new SIM controlled by the criminals, that's when your phone will go dead, and you could be in trouble.
Yeah, and if it does occur to you and you do respond to a link or something along that line, contact your financial institution, or with First Bank, contact our support center, and they can help walk you through on what needs to be done. So outside of contacting your financial institutions, Brian, what else do you recommend that people should do if they do fall victim?
Yeah, certainly reach out to law enforcement. That is and the sooner the better, and especially in terms of if there is any element of like we were talking about, cryptocurrency being transferred out of an account, the sooner that we're able to get we have a group at our headquarters within the Secret Service that's a money hunting group is basically what they're known as, who are responsible for tracking cryptocurrency as it moves. And the sooner that we can get them working on that, the better, and the better chance that we have to try to freeze those funds and potentially seize them and get them back to the victims.
And freezing your accounts through the credit agencies is also highly recommended to do if you're not needing to take out credit.
Absolutely. So like you said, contact your financial institution. Just immediately start going through. Again, it's tedious, it's painful, but it has to be done. Go through all of your accounts, change all your passwords, contact the credit bureaus as well. Put freezes on all of your accounts as well, in order to protect yourself. It's oftentimes the loss to the victim is time, often more so than financial in many cases. You hope, and that's actually a better scenario, right? To lose out on that much time that it takes to protect yourself, but it's certainly better than the financial loss. But it is it can be ugly to go through that once you've been victimized, for sure.
Yeah. So another big thing in cyber that's on a lot of people's minds is ransomware, especially in the in businesses as well as in the government. As some may know, last year President Biden or the White House put out a executive memo with recommendations on how to protect yourself and things to do. As criminals in nation states have utilized this as a source of income for them, the disruption of operations. Do you see this trend subsiding anytime soon with what you're seeing from your view in the Secret Service?
No, unfortunately not. Do not specific to ransomware or really any sort of cyber attacks. No, don't see it subsiding. Just to back that up with a few statistics for everybody in terms of ransomware, 27% of malware infections in 2021 were ransomware. Ransomware attacks increased 64% in 2021. I've seen two different data elements. One that says that attacks occur every 2 seconds. One that says ransomware attacks occur every 11 seconds. Either way, really bad, whether it's 2 seconds or 11 seconds for how frequent these ransomware attacks occur. It's ugly. The other, and again, why this isn't going to go away. The average ransom payment in 2021 was $570,000, which was an 82% increase in 1 year. So the criminals are going to, while this continues to be easy and profitable, they're going to continue to execute these types of attacks. And make no mistake, these are, the ransomware groups, the criminal groups behind these attacks are full scale, underground industries that would mirror a legitimate, corporation. They have research and development, they have sales, they have customer service, they have public relations. I mean, it is a full-scale operation that unfortunately isn't going away and is quite successful. And like you mentioned, Mark, with the events occurring in Europe right now, yes, the Russian and Ukraine tensions, certainly cyber attacks are an element there. Russian state-sponsored APT actors are they use common but very effective tactics, spear phishing, brute force attacks, exploiting known vulnerabilities, these types of attacks to gain access to networks. And they've also, Russian attackers specifically have demonstrated the ability to maintain persistent, undetected, long-term access within compromised environments, which is an even scarier element to it. They frequently target, like you mentioned, critical infrastructure organizations. So we're talking about healthcare, energy, telecommunications, government facilities, the defense industry. Specific to the Ukraine, it's been reported frequently, and it's common knowledge that recently, over the past few years, Russia has frequently attacked the Ukrainian energy distribution companies and their power grids on an almost regular basis to cause unplanned power outages. Basically just poking them, just sort of aggravating them, and obviously that has escalated at this point now. But it's certainly a tool used by Russia, again, against Ukraine, but then broader than that as well. And really, there are, when it comes to nation state actors in the cybercrime realm, there's really the big four, which are Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. Those are really the big four when it comes to nation state actors.
Yeah, and with ransomware being so prevalent, and a company going up against a nation state actor is not a fair match, right? Because even some of the largest companies of the world has failed against such attack. But what sort of defenses can a company do to protect themselves from this? I know we have an extensive security that we have here in the bank, which I can't get into, but we can. But there's a lot that we do here to secure the bank resources and our customers. But what can a small business or other organizations do to help protect themselves?
Yeah, it is scary and does require potentially a robust plan, and that's the first step, is creating, maintaining, exercising a cyber incident response and continuity of operations plan. That's an element, right off the bat. Have a response plan created and practiced within your organization, so that when an incident does occur, you're ready to meet it. So that's the first step. And then a part of that, elements of that plan, would be to implementing log collection and monitoring, ensuring, specifically when it comes to ransomware, ensuring that data is backed up, it's offline, and it's secure. A lot of times, organizations that are hit with ransomware may pay the ransom to receive decryption information in order to regain access to their data, but oftentimes they end up utilizing backup to get back online, rather than going through the process, even if they've paid the ransom, rather than going through the process of decryption. So ensuring backups are available, that they're offline, and that they are secure is critical. We've talked a lot already about multi-factor authentication, but that is an element that is, when executed properly, is a way to protect yourself against cyber attacks, and should be utilized. This, again, something very simple, but it remains to be the case. installing updates and patches as soon as they are released. That's something that we've been doing forever, but needs to continue to be done to protect ourselves from known vulnerabilities. And then we'll touch on it. Another element we'll touch on being phishing as a result of phishing attacks that end up targeting members of an organization, implementing cybersecurity and awareness training so that individuals within a company, within an organization, are aware of what it means to have good cyber hygiene and good cybersecurity awareness. So implementing those training plans within your organization is another key element.
Yeah, and in those backups, not only, as you mentioned, securing them, but periodically testing those backups are important. A couple other things is making sure that you're training your employees on how to recognize phishing, and then also who to report that phishing to if they suspect that it's phishing, so that way that email can be investigated to determine if it is, and then how can you remove that from your environment to keep people from clicking on it. One of the big things that companies or criminals are after is the credentials, and so a lot of these phishing emails are trying to get your credentials if they're not trying to install something on your machine directly anyway. So putting proper antivirus, Windows updates, application controls that prevents unauthorized software from being installed are all great ways of helping prevent it. And then also the just keeping up with your environment and knowing what's going on within there is really huge, and basically knowing your environment with that continuous monitoring, like you mentioned. So
yeah, Mark, I was just to kind of piggyback off that with regard to phishing. I saw recently that 5% of all emails are phishing emails. So just think about all the emails that go back and forth every day, 5% of which are phishing emails. So that's the prevalence of that type of attack vector. And 38% of all cyber attacks begin with a phishing email. Again, something that in the cybersecurity and cybercrime world we've talked about for years now, phishing, but it continues to be the vector that it continues to be the way that malware is delivered. And for instance, in 2020, many phishing emails targeted COVID or the presidential election. They're designed to entice people to open an attachment, click on a link. They're going to be about subjects people are interested in, they're curious in. They may be so targeted that they may use personal information against you to get, within the email to get you to open an attachment, click on a link, what have you. So like you said, Mark, it is so critical to implement that cybersecurity awareness and training program with phishing tests to gauge, user awareness and reinforce the importance of identifying those malicious emails.
Yeah, definitely. And then, a lot of those phishing emails, they're going to try to take advantage of the latest vulnerabilities that's out there. When Microsoft released some of the most recent patches, as soon as it was announced, within 2 hours, there was an exploit that was out there. And within 36 hours, there was ransomware utilizing that exploit actively being monitored. So it does not take long for them to take advantage of this, because they know those windows will close quickly, especially in enterprises, which is where a lot of the money's at, and they're really trying to target those bigger companies.
Exactly.
So with the Secret Service and the Gateway Crimes Task Force, how can the Secret Service help businesses if they come across an attack, or if they find that they have a breach?
Yeah, so a couple things. I'll even start before that occurs and just make a pitch for organizations to involve. And again, I always tell folks, whether it's the Secret Service, the FBI, whether it's DHS CISA, which is Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, whether it's DHS, CISA, FBI, Secret Service, just involve someone, and it doesn't. We all are able to do the same type of work, but it's important on the front end to have those contacts with those agencies, invite them in to participate in setting up your cyber incident response plan or any sort of tabletop or exercise where you may be doing a run through of your incident response plan. Have a contact from Secret Service or FBI there or DHS there to participate and provide that federal law enforcement perspective while you're setting up and executing your practices of your plan. But then in the event that something does occur, again, once you've already established contact with a known point of contact at that agency, you can bring them in, and our role will be to compare indicators of compromise in a specific organization's scenario with other known cases, and there most often is a scenario where an attack that has occurred on one organization is very, very similar to an attack that's previously occurred on another organization. So we can take what we've learned from those previous attacks and apply that and assist victims in getting back on their feet after they are hit. So we will, like I said, compare those IOCs with other known attacks, gather information on the attack, and really what we do is we aggregate that information with other known attacks in order to gain intelligence, find commonalities, and ultimately trace it back to the known criminal group. We're not the law enforcement isn't going to be a remediation player. That we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be collecting evidence to further the investigation, and like I said, to compare with other similar attacks that have occurred around the world. It's definitely every organization, again, depending upon a number of factors. Oftentimes when cyber insurance policies are in play, that sometimes changes things, or sometimes that has some impact on when law enforcement is notified or brought in or information is shared. So, I would also encourage organizations to make sure that they're aware of what their cyber incident, their cyber insurance policy is as it relates to dealing with law enforcement, so that we're not, so that we're able to be involved and to assist and to gather that data.
Wonderful. So one other quick comment here, I think on this, some great resources for people to sign up for is US CERT, as well as CISA, and then also the Gateway Center for our Cybercrime Center. You can reach out to them and sign up for them to get alerts. There's also in St. Louis, especially the local InfraGard chapter, which is more FBI based, but the Secret Service also plays a big role in there and helps with a lot of that, the information with that. So a lot of great resources to get alerted on and keep current of events that's occurring, fraud, as well as vulnerabilities and other areas of security to be concerned about.
Absolutely, yeah. If you go to CISA.gov, so CISA, CISA.gov. From there you can link specifically to the Secret Service cyber fraud task forces around the country and gain it and link to us. But then additionally, like you said, Mark, those bulletins and the intelligence that is shared by CISA on their website is outstanding and with almost daily updates of some new indicator of compromise or some new threat intelligence that's posted there. So I would definitely encourage you, your clients, to check that out.
Yeah, definitely. Mike, do we have any questions from the audience?
So let me just give a quick reminder. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in the question section of the webinar tool. And just to get us started, we do have a question. This person says that they attended a webinar a couple of years ago talking about how about the Russians were extremely good at covering their tracks and you not knowing that they're there, whereas North Koreans and even some of the Chinese, you could tell that they were there. Has that changed in the modern times now? Are they more adept to infiltrating and covering their tracks?
Yeah, I hadn't heard specifically that Russia was better than those other nation state actors. However, I would say that yes, it is accurate. I think we talked about it briefly earlier that specific to Russian cyber criminals, they are particularly adept at establishing an unknown presence within a network and basically just sitting there and monitoring network activity for a prolonged period of time. That yes, that is something attributed to Russian actors specifically. I don't know how that compares to the tactics of those other nation state actors, like I said, but I would be concerned that they're all equally adept at that type of activity.
Very good. Thank you for that. So I don't see any other questions at the moment. Any final thoughts while maybe someone's submitting a question?
Hey, Brian?
Yeah, like I said, I would certainly just again, make our pitch to bring us as law enforcement to bring us into your organizations as you see fit in order to provide any sort of presentations like this to your employees or anything regarding cybercrime activity, fraud activity. We're always happy to have discussions with your organizations about trends and tactics that we're seeing, and then, like I also mentioned, bring us in to participate in your cyber response exercises or planning phases as you put those incident response plans together. We're happy to sit in and offer a law enforcement perspective. And participate when you run through exercises to practice those. So I just want to put that pitch out there that we're happy to be brought in on the front end anytime we can be.
And I would add that these aren't scary monsters or anything coming in. These are great groups of men and women. I've known Brian for many years and worked with a lot of other agencies before coming to the bank, and they're here to truly help, and it is confidential when they come in. So they are here to help, and they're easy to get a hold of, and definitely reach out to your law enforcement or to the Secret Service if needed. So
right, and we're gonna rely on the individual organization to be the expert. I mean, we don't know your network better than you do. So it's not a scenario where we're coming in and kicking people out of a room and taking control of something. It is we have to work with each individual organization to really make any progress in any way, because like I said before, no one knows your network or your systems better than you do. So it has to be that partnership activity.
Yep. All right, we did get a couple more questions here. One is asking, is there more interest from these criminals in protected health information or in banking information?
Good question. Well, there's both. I mean, they're both. So all of that information is profitable and interesting and sought after by the criminals. So if it's PII, it can be that's something that is certainly, as we're all probably aware, that is information that once compromised is then subsequently put up for sale on dark web forums, websites where criminals trade and sell and buy this type of information that's been compromised as a result of a data breach somewhere. So any of that type of PII information that can be accessed and then subsequently put up for sale is profitable. However, that's at a much lower, that's most likely a lower level of profitability unless you're doing such large volumes that it becomes a bigger moneymaker for the criminal. The access to financial information certainly can speed up, the amount, or can increase the amount of money that the criminal can make, because they've got direct access to finances. So they're not just trying to sell off bits and pieces of personal information. They're going to go directly to an account or a Coinbase account or a bank account or what have you, where they have direct access to funds or to cryptocurrency. So To answer the question, both are appealing. They're just it's just different. They're just two different levels. You know, it's probably more. I guess if I had to rate one over the other, the direct access to financial accounts would be of greater interest, but that certainly isn't to say that the sales of PII isn't taking place, because it does every day, nonstop.
Thank you for that question and that answer. Another one here says, since most of our major systems are cloud-based, would the security of Amazon and their cloud hosts be considered more reliable than hosting systems on premise?
It is. What were you gonna say, Mark?
I was going to say, I think the answer there is it depends, because it is, you know, their updates and stuff are on the systems is maintained really well. But then it's also very easy to have a misconfiguration that can expose data.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if you had, you'd probably give it the nod a little bit more towards cloud-based being more secure, just in general terms. Now, certainly, like Mark said, there are exceptions. Frequently, the majority, I think, of attacks occur or are more successful when we're not dealing with the cloud-based situation. So I think it does add an additional layer of security, and really it's because, you know, criminals are always looking to target low-hanging fruit or the path of least resistance. And I think that it is going to add another layer of difficulty for criminal groups when we're dealing with accessing information, cloud-based information. So if they don't have to go that route, they probably won't. They'll try an easier route, and so that's the direction that the criminals would take more often than not.
Good. Appreciate that question. Another one here says, if we suspect an employee in human resources may be selling social security numbers, who should we contact first?
Yeah, you can absolutely. No, that insider threat is what we would is kind of what that falls under in terms of the way we look at it. Absolutely, 100% something the Secret Service would investigate. You can certainly contact here locally the St. Louis field office or your local field office around the country. But yes, that's absolutely something that would rise to a federal criminal investigation that the Secret Service would investigate. We certainly handle insider threat type cases. Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, everybody.